And a really warm welcome back to Urban Flower Collective. If this is your first time here, then hi, it's great to see you. If you've been here before, then a really warm welcome back. My name's Lisa, I'm the host here. So today I'm going to just talk you through a few of the tools that I think are pretty essential for making sugar flowers. If you're new to this, you're probably wondering what kind of tools that you need. You probably look on Amazon, you look on cake decorating sites, and you're a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of things you need. So I'm going to talk you through a few of the basics that will get you started making beautiful sugar flowers. So if you look at the overhead camera, there's quite a range here, but don't let that put you off. So let's get started. First of all, you're going to need a good flower paste. Now, this is entirely up to you. You can have a play around with different ones and see which works. Some dry quickly, some dry a bit more slowly. Some are great in humid conditions, others flop once you've made the flowers. So you have a play around and see which one suits you. So I'm not going to advise on a brand. Personally, I like a brand called Ultrafine by Simply Heaven, but it's entirely up to you. So you play around with your flower paste or gum paste. Next, you're going to need to be able to roll it out really thin, and the beauty of making sugar flowers is having the paste super thin. So I like to have a little rolling pin. I can use this and manipulate this a lot easier, but I also have a pasta machine. Now, I wouldn't say this is essential, and I've only got a hand cranked one, but you can get these for KitchenAids, you can get them for Kenwoods. I just use a normal manual pasta machine. Now, my top tip for this is a lot of people have pasta machines lurking in the kitchen in the back of the cupboard. They've probably made their own pasta once and then never used it again. And often you can find these really almost brand new, only haven't been used once or twice, on places like Facebook Marketplace or on eBay. You know, look for the used ones. They've hardly ever been used, and I've had this one for years. They last a lifetime if they're looked after well. So have a look around, and I'm sure you'll be able to get yourself a cheap one. But you know, that's not essential at the beginning, but it's the way to get your sugar paste nice and fine and evenly rolled out. So that's that. Next, I like a cutting mat. I like to do things on a cutting mat. So this green thing here with the lines on is a self-healing cutting mat. You can cut out on it. It doesn't, it protects your work surface. It's not essential, but it's a nice to have. You're also going to need, to go along with your sugar paste, some wires. Now, these are craft wires or florist wires. You can see I've got them in a handy box with the gauges on. You're probably going to need some maybe 24, 26, 28 gauge wire for your petals. And now with florist wire or craft wire, the higher the gauge, the finer the wire is. So if you've got really fine petals, you're going to be looking at 30, 28 gauge. Otherwise, I usually tend to use 26 gauge wires. If I'm needing a more chunky leaf, I would go down to 20 or 22. Sometimes if you're doing thick branches, you might need to go down to 16. So it's handy to have a few packs of different gauge wires, depending on what flowers you're going to make. Don't get them mixed up. This is a really handy little wire holder that I've got, but you are going to, if you're going to make realistic flowers, they're usually wired, and you're going to need some wires of some description. Next, because we've got wires, I like a pair of wire cutters, and these ones cut wire, and they are also needle nose pliers, and these are really handy for bending wires and for popping wires into cakes and things. They're just a really handy tool, so I would definitely invest in one of those. Next, so this is the bottle and paste I use. Next, I think these are really handy too, and these are petal protectors. Now, these ones have got two flaps. So once you've cut out your petals, but you don't want them to dry out if you're still working on them, or if you're doing something like a sunflower that's got lots and lots of small petals, you want to keep them moist until you've got time to work on them. So one of these is great. One or two of these is great. If you haven't got these, then just a normal document wallet would do the same thing. Just cut the document wallet around the edges, leave one side attached, and cover your petals up with the 2 sheets of polythene. Next, I would say you need a petal pad. Now, this is for working on your petals and getting some movement in them and getting them to look a little bit realistic. This one here you can see has got some holes in. I would say if you're only going to buy one petal pad, then do buy one with holes in, because some of the flowers I'll make, certainly you need these holes. They're called Mexican's hats. And along with your petal pad, you're going to need a set of ball tools. I've got a few here, but these are ball tools that come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, from really tiny ones to really quite big ones. And these are really handy for thinning out your petals and giving your petals movement. So I'd say a set of ball tools is an essential. And then the other two tools I really use a lot are a cutting wheel. If you haven't got a cutting wheel, just for cutting out shapes and cutting round templates, if you don't have the bespoke petal cutters for the flower you're making, you can just cut around with a cutting wheel, which stops any drag on your flower paste, or an X-Acto blade. I mean, and this is really handy as well. So I would suggest having those. And then finally, the tool I use a lot is a Dresden tool, and I'm sure you will too. Now these come in different shapes and sizes. These ones, these bits do tend to fall off sometimes, so this is an all-in-one. But a Dresden tool's got sort of a fat end and a bit of a pointier end, and this is a really good tool for making your sugar flowers with. Now, onto cutters and veiners. As I've said, if you don't have the correct cutters for the flowers you're making, you can draw a template of the leaf and just cut around with a cutting knife or with your X-Acto blade. So you don't always need the bespoke cutters. If it's a flower that you're only going to make once or twice, then, you know, I would say be economical. You don't need every cutter for every flower, and a lot of cutters can be adapted. So what I would recommend is maybe buying a good set of rose petal cutters, because they can be adapted to lots of flowers. You can manipulate the shapes from them and use them for a lot of different flowers. When we're talking about cutters, we'll also come on to veiners. Now, I would recommend investing in a couple of good quality veiners. You know, this is what makes your petals and your leaves look more realistic, when they've got good quality veins in them. So I would say if you're just starting out, maybe buy a good quality universal leaf veiner and a good quality universal petal veiner, and then take it from there. When you see what kind of flowers you're making, and if you're making certain flowers regularly, say roses, you know, a good quality rose petal veiner would be a good investment, because that will do for a lot of different flowers. So I would say maybe have one good quality petal and one good quality rose, and then when you know what you're going to make, you can buy the bespoke ones. But as I say, you can cut most templates out, but getting the veins into your petals and leaves is going to be what makes them look different and stand out from the crowd and make them look more realistic. If you haven't got the budget to buy a good quality silicone petal or rose veiner, you can always buy one of these to start with, and this is called a silk tool. And I don't know if you can see closely, let me see on the overhead camera, but this has got little veins in. And all you do is roll this over your flower paste, over your gum paste, and it will leave lines in the paste and leave veins. So that's a good alternative if you can't afford to buy a nice leaf or petal veiner. I also like to have some dimple sponge. This gives your leaves and flowers just a nice flow and movement if you let them dry on here. And I also use the back quite a lot with the Dresden tool to just get some movement into my petals and leaves as well. I would also say you need a little pair of nail scissors. Now this is handy for quite a few of the flowers we make where we might cut into the flower paste. To go with your florist wire, you're going to need some florist tape. I would recommend just buying full width, and if you need half width tape, you can always cut it down the middle. I would get some green and white to start with, maybe a roll of brown as well, and see how you get on with that. Another tool that isn't it's not a flower maker's tool, but it's a crafter's tool, is this, and it's called a boning tool. They come in packs of 2. You can get these from Amazon fairly cheaply, just a few pounds, but I use this a lot, and I thin out my edges of petals with it, and I find it a really, really useful tool. So I would definitely invest in one of those. If you're going to be doing my classes, I use this quite a lot. And then finally, you just need some nice colours. So I would suggest you get a few greens, you know, of different shades. I'll show you I keep mine in little boxes, in sort of colour-coded boxes. You can see I've got a lot, but I'll make a lot of sugar flowers. But maybe a dark green and a more citrusy, zesty green, a couple of yellows, some pinks are really nice and versatile to start off with. You can put these on with brushes, with paint brushes, or with makeup brushes, all clean and all just used for food stuff, obviously. So you'll need a few brushes, and you might want some gel colours. I mean, personally, I prefer to dust up white paste and give it movement and colour that way, but you can colour up your paste first as well, particularly if you've got darker colours. You can colour up your paste first, so maybe some gel colours. If you're a cake designer, you probably have some of these in your toolkit anyway. And then I think last but not least of essentials, you need formers to shape your petals and your leaves. And as I say, you can dry them out on dimple foam, or you can even make your own formers with aluminium foil if you use your veiners. You can use egg cartons, there's a lot of things you can use. But for a lot of my petals, I like to use just dessert spoons. And I've bought these really cheaply. These are just disposable dessert spoons, but obviously I reuse them. I just snap the ends off so I can store them nicely. And I'd use these as petal formers. So they're really cheap and easy and accessible. And then because some of the flowers have stamen in the middle, I like to buy just plain matte stamen, and then you can colour them up any colour you like. So I think that is my essential kit. So it sounds like a lot, but if you buy 1 or 2 items every week or every month, you will soon have a really good toolkit for making your sugar flowers with. So I hope that's been helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give a thumbs up if you like the videos, and if you want any help with your sugar flowers, then come and join us in our free private Facebook group called Urban Flower Collective. If you want some other tutorials, there are many more on Teachable under Urban Flower Collective, and stay tuned, there's going to be lots more over the spring and summer being added onto this YouTube channel. So as I say, subscribe, put on the notifications, and you'll be first to see them. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.